Welcome back everyone. If you're new here, I'm Joanna, and on my channel I talk about sustainability, minimalism and my day-to-day life. In this video I want to talk about why you should stop recycling. So in the first part of the video I want to talk about what recycling actually means. The second part will be dedicated to why recycling is a good thing. In the third part I want to make the claim why recycling is not good and why you should stop that. And in the last part I will talk about a few things that you can do about that. When you think about sustainability, we mostly think about packaging like we find in the supermarket, but also in sustainable fashion, in daily items, electronic devices and all other different areas, or in my opinion should be more discussed if they're not. So recycling means really that you bring a material or a product into circularity without the need to produce and extract new resources. The process reduces energy, water, green gas emissions, and as a result doesn't harm the environment as much as producing a new bottle or a tin. Even though I've mentioned a lot of different areas in which recyclability is really important, in this video I want to concentrate on packaging because this is something that affects us on a daily basis and is also really frequent. As long as you're not living a zero waste life or you don't buy things in bulk, a product mostly consists of two parts. It's the product itself and the packaging. And there's not only the energy that is put in to produce that food, the cracker or whatever, but there's more to that. The carbon footprint of package and also of the product consists of energy that we don't see, and this is called the gray energy, which is the sum of everything had to be packed in this product and includes several components as land use, water consumption, transport, etc. There are a lot of things that come into that. For example, if you buy cashews in a bag and not in bulk, this will result in a higher gray energy demand because there are resources needed for the cashews and for the packaging that come together into one product. But if you have only the cashews and not the packaging, the gray energy will be much lower because you don't need any resources to produce the bag. So in summary, the gray energy is the total energy that is used to produce something, and this applies to every single thing that we see in the shop and that we buy. It doesn't matter if this is something that we eat or if it's the packaging. There's always gray energy in products. And when we recycle things, when we recycle paper, when we recycle glass or tins or plastic, this gray energy will be much lower because there's no need to produce these things from new, and the energy amount is much more lower. For example, because you don't need to heat the oven for aluminum production as high as if you need to extract it from the bauxite. This is just like an example, but this applies for every single resource that we have. And in general, if you recycle materials and packages, the energy demand is much lower because you don't have to extract this resource again and again. So through recycling you really reduce the impact on the environment, and you don't need to produce like virgin materials, but you have the materials that you already have in the economy that are not needed anymore. For example, like a used water bottle that people don't use anymore, this will be recycled, and from that it can be a new bottle without using new fossil fuels that have to be extracted, but the plastic bottle will be turned into another plastic bottle or into textile. And the good thing about that is that it really stays in like this bubble, and this is really the goal, I think, to not to extract more and more resources from the earth, because these are endless, and right now we as a population are extracting much more resources than the earth can replenish. Recycling is a way to bring back that circularity of resources that cannot be brought to the earth. In a way, we are simulating natural cycles that are found in nature, but with technology. And like that, we are able to use much less resources taken directly from the earth. Having that circular economy is really based on secondary life of materials, because most of them can really be reused and recycled over and over again, and also without any reduction of quality. So now going to the second point, it's indeed that way recycling is way better than not. For recycling, you manage to reduce the amount of energy that is needed to produce, for For example, aluminium. That doesn't have to be extracted from a bauxite anymore, and you save up to 95% of energy use that way. There's also an economic reason, because it really creates also work opportunities and businesses actually. So I talked about aluminium, but also PET bottles or glass or paper are all very good examples that can be easily recycled and turned into new materials. But it's also important to keep in mind that not all materials are recyclable or not easily recyclable. And that leads me to the third point. Nowadays, most of the people know what the 6 R's of sustainability are, and these are the think, refuse, repair, reduce, reuse, and recycle. As you might notice, recycling is the ultimate point that you do, and it also makes sense that it has the least priority. The reason is that recycling still needs a lot of energy for heating, for the machines themselves, and a lot of effort to sort, and there are also transportation costs. Also, in many countries, even in Europe, the recycling quota is not nearly 100, which means that even the materials that you put into the bin and are recyclable will not be recycled, end up on the landfill or are being incinerated, because there's not the infrastructure or the system behind that could do that. And also there's the problem that it has to be transported, which also goes under the infrastructure. And this is something that the government or the city has to provide for you, not something that you can do by yourself, which is a big problem and has to do quite a lot with governance. Many materials, especially plastic, pose a huge problem for the environment because it can contaminate groundwater, endanger sea and land animals, and also contribute to climate change due to the use of fossil fuels. Another problem is that there are limited possibilities to recycle every single material. As I mentioned before, PET bottles are really easily recycled and reused for not new bottles or textiles, but there are also many composite products like spray cans or phones that require a lot of effort to separate the different parts and therefore require a lot of workforce and energy as well. The problem that I find is particularly important is that if you are aware that in your city or in your country, like for example here in Switzerland, you can recycle almost everything. The danger then arises that one doesn't really think about what you are buying because you think that you can always recycle it. You know that you will be able to put a glass into the glass container, that you will put the PET bottle or the Tetra Pak into the container, but you don't really think what is going on after that. And as I said before, the recycling quota is not always 100%, almost never, but it's most likely like 80% or in some countries even above 50%. So there is this danger that you think you're not contributing to pollution, but actually you are, because half of the things or like 2/3 of the things that you buy will not be recycled at all. So there's really not much thought about what will happen with the packages after we put it in the bin, because we think this will be recycled, but our impact is actually much bigger. And also the things that are really being recycled, there's still energy that has to be used for the plants, and also they are going to release greenhouse emissions. At this point, I really think that reusing and buying as much as possible package-free or in bulk is much better option. This is also something that I think holds true even in Switzerland, even though this is a country that recycles really a lot and the quota is mostly about 80% or more. It's still not the whole thing, and thinking about and wishful thinking that all of the things will recycle that are recyclable is just not something that is sustainable. This is also true for regions that don't have a recycling system or not a good one. Even though the materials are recyclable, most likely they will end on the landfill or in nature, both of which only harm animals and people. So as I mentioned before, demanding an institutionalized solution from the government and businesses that work on a bigger scale is really important, because without them there is no possibility that we can recycle as a single person. Also, our behavior, we can adapt that, and here are some points that I really think are quite important. So reducing the amount of single-use products is really important, but also if you really need something or really want something, just thinking twice about that is also really helpful, because eventually maybe you really need that or really want that, but really asking yourself and thinking about the environment that when you buy this, you contribute to the pollution. In general, it is really good to buy secondhand or reuse packages as long as you can, for example, glass jars, because the great energy is in every product, and as long as it's not being recycled or as long as it is still in use, this great energy is not like that big. It's still there, but it's just stretched for a longer time and doesn't have. Another point is avoiding composite materials, and also ones that cannot be recycled or there is no possibility in your area to do so. Also, if you have reused things over and over again, don't put them into the normal bin, but you can also recycle it after reusing them. And the last point I want to stretch here is also that you cannot come up with ideas in your local community or really demanding things from your government or city to implement structures and infrastructure for recycling. So I hope you could find some value in this video and that you will think maybe twice about buying something that can be recycled, because this still has energy use that comes into that. And I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!